When I got pregnant, my husband's parents shouted, "This baby will have my first name. It's a family legacy." My husband smiled and said, "Mom has a point." I took a deep breath and said, "Then Mom can be the one giving birth too." He choked on his coffee. You know how sometimes you're just going through the motions of life. Wake up, work, dinner, bed, thinking everything's under control, only for life to sucker punch you when you least expect it? That was me. Name's Marissa. I'm 36 and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm a high school English teacher. Been teaching for nearly 12 years now. I like books more than people on most days, and honestly, that used to work just fine. I married Anthony 5 years ago. He's a pharmacist, methodical, practical, a bit too agreeable if you ask me. We weren't perfect, but we were stable, solid, or at least that's what I told myself. No big fights, no cheating, no disappearing acts. We had routines, grocery lists on the fridge, weekend hikes, Netflix Thursdays. We even had talks about kids, like adults do, no rush, maybe next year when we have more money saved, when the spare bedroom's cleaned out. Then, last fall, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't planned. I'd stopped tracking my cycle religiously. We'd been a little careless one night after a wine tasting event, and there it was, a faint pink line on a stick I bought at CVS after work. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes. My heart was racing, not with fear, but something between shock and disbelief. I thought I'd be older when it happened. I thought I'd feel ready. I thought we'd plan this. But I also felt something else. Like maybe this wasn't a mistake at all. I told Anthony that night. He was quiet. His hand hovered in midair, still holding the fork halfway to his mouth. I was trying to read his face, but he just looked stunned. "You're pregnant," he said slowly, blinking. "Yeah," I nodded. "About 5 weeks." He set the fork down. "Wow. Okay. That's okay." "Okay," I echoed, trying not to sound irritated. "That's all you've got?" "No. I mean, it's good. It's surprising. But good. We'll figure it out." I could tell he was trying to process it, and I didn't want to push, so I just gave him space. We went to bed quietly, and for the next week, we walked around each other like roommates sharing a secret. Then came Sunday. We always had Sunday dinners at his parents' place, Gloria and Walter. Retired, wealthy, Southern to the bone. They lived in a colonial-style home up in Biltmore Forest. The kind with antique furniture, floral wallpaper, and crystal bowls filled with hard candy nobody ever eats. That night, I told them I was pregnant. I didn't want to tell them yet, but Anthony thought it'd be a good surprise. He thought they'd be thrilled. He still didn't get that his mother always had to make everything about her. I waited until the main course was done, and we were just sipping sweet tea and picking at slices of peach pie. "I have some news," I said, trying to sound calm. "We're having a baby." Silence. Then Gloria dropped her fork. "Oh," she gasped, one hand flying to her pearl necklace. "Praise the Lord." Walter nodded, his thin white brows lifting. "Well, that's something. Congratulations." Then, like a switch flipped, Gloria leaned forward and said, "This baby will have my first name." I blinked. "What?" I asked, not sure I heard her right. "You heard me," she said, smiling wide like a beauty queen. "It's tradition. The firstborn in our family always carries the name Gloria if it's a girl. And Gregory for a boy. It's legacy. Family honor." I waited for Anthony to laugh. Or protest. Or say anything. He didn't. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Well, Mom has a point. It is a tradition." I turned to look at him. "A point?" "Yeah," he said, a bit too casually. "I mean, we can talk about it, but it's important to my family." My mouth went dry. "I didn't realize we were naming our child by committee," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Next thing you'll be telling me she gets to choose the godparents too." Gloria chuckled. "Oh honey, I already have someone in mind." I stared at her, then looked back at Anthony. His eyes met mine and then darted away, like a kid caught cheating on a test. I took a deep breath, pushed back my chair, and stood up. "Well, then maybe Mom can be the one giving birth too," I said, loud enough that the walls echoed. Anthony choked on his coffee so hard he had to grab a napkin. Gloria's face froze mid-smile, and Walter let out a low whistle. "Marissa," Anthony said, voice low, "don't do this here." "Why not? Seems like your mother thinks she's already running the show." Gloria looked personally offended. "I'm only suggesting what's best for the family. This baby is a part of us." "This baby," I said, pointing to my belly, "is a part of me. And I'm not incubating your damn legacy. We left early that night. The silence in the car was suffocating. It took Anthony until we were almost home to say, "You didn't have to embarrass her." I stared out the window. "You didn't have to agree with her. She's my mom, Marissa. She means well. It's a name, not a life sentence." "It's not about the name," I snapped. "It's the way you stood there, like a puppet. Like I didn't matter." He was quiet for a beat. "I didn't mean it that way. But you did it that way." The next few weeks were tense. Anthony avoided conversations about the baby. I started going to appointments alone. I didn't mind it at first, it was peaceful in a way. But when I heard the heartbeat for the first time, I wanted someone there. Someone who cared. I told my sister Camille. She came over the next day with takeout and stayed late, rubbing my back while I cried on the couch. "This isn't how it's supposed to be," I whispered. "He was supposed to be my person." Camille didn't say much. Just held me. I think she knew that saying "you deserve better" wouldn't fix anything. Then came the day I found the box. It was in our closet. Anthony sighed, way in the back, behind a stack of old pharmacy textbooks. I only saw it because I was looking for the heating pad. It was a shoebox. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to Anthony. From a woman named Lydia. Some dated back before we got married. Some from last year. The most recent one? 3 months ago. They were love letters. Some handwritten. Some typed. Some very graphic. My hands were shaking. My breath came in sharp, painful bursts. I read 5 letters before I had to stop myself. One said, "I miss you every time I smell eucalyptus. Come see me again. No one has to know." Another ended with, "I'll always wait for you, no matter how many times you leave." I didn't sleep that night. I waited until the next day. Waited until he came home and set his keys down like nothing was wrong. "Who's Lydia?" I asked, holding the box. His face drained of color. "Where did you find that?" "Who is she?" "She was a mistake," he whispered. "How long?" He hesitated. "Anthony," I said, my voice cracking. "How long?" "Before you. And a little after. But it's over." "You kept her letters," I said. "You hid them." I didn't want to throw them away. That's when something in me snapped. Quietly. Like a rope giving out under too much strain. "You're right," I said. "This is your legacy. Secrets. Cowardice. Pretending everything's okay." I packed a bag that night. Went to Camille's. Camille didn't ask questions when I showed up at her door with a duffel bag, my cheeks streaked with dried tears. She just stepped aside and opened her arms. "You staying a while?" she asked, her voice gentle. "Just until I figure things out," I said, stepping into the warmth of her living room. The smell of lentil soup was wafting from the kitchen. Her dog, Jasper, a lazy golden retriever, sniffed my legs before flopping back on his bed. She nodded, and without missing a beat, said, "You want the guest room or the couch?" "Couch is fine." She raised an eyebrow. "Guest room it is," she said, grabbing my bag. I didn't cry that night. I couldn't. I felt wrung out, like someone had twisted all the grief and rage out of me and left the shell behind. The next morning, Anthony called. I didn't answer. Then he texted, "Can we talk?" I didn't mean for this to happen. "Please don't shut me out." I stared at the screen for a long time, thumb hovering over the reply button. But what was there to say? That I found out my husband had been emotionally, maybe physically cheating? That I was carrying his child while he kept love letters from another woman tucked away like keepsakes? I turned off my phone. Later that day, Camille brought me tea and sat down beside me on the patio. "You don't have to decide anything today," she said. "Or even tomorrow." I nodded. I keep thinking about the baby. What kind of father he's going to be. What kind of man. Camille was quiet for a moment, then said, "Maybe ask yourself if he's the kind of man you'd want your child to grow up to be." That hit harder than I expected. Over the next week, I tried to exist in a routine again. I went to work, came home, ate dinner with Camille. I scheduled my next prenatal appointment. I avoided Anthony. Then, on a quiet Wednesday evening, he showed up at Camille's door. I was folding laundry when I heard his voice in the hallway. "Can I talk to her?" he asked. Camille stepped into the living room, eyes narrowing. "You want to talk, Anthony? Or do you want to explain why my sister found love letters from another woman in your closet?" "I deserve that," he said, looking past her at me. "But please, just give me 5 minutes." I stood there, holding a baby onesie in my hands. The tag still on. It was sage green, with little white bears. I hadn't even realized I'd bought it. 5 minutes, I said. He followed me onto the back porch. The fall air was crisp. The trees had started to shed their leaves. It smelled like wood smoke and earth. He sat on the bench beside me, hunched over like someone waiting for a sentence. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I know that's not enough. I didn't want to lose you. Too late. I never stopped loving you, Marissa. She was part of my life before you. When things got hard between us, I didn't go back to her, not really. I just kept the letters. I don't know why." I looked at him, trying to read his face. He looked tired. "Hollow. Because you wanted the option," I said. He didn't deny it. "You let your mother speak for you. You let her plan our child's name like I was just some vessel. And then I find out you've been holding on to someone else's words behind my back. How am I supposed to trust you again?" He shook his head, exhaling hard. "I don't know. I don't expect you to, but I want to earn it back. For the baby. For us." "That baby isn't your redemption arc," I said coldly. "And I'm not your reward for apologizing." He looked like he'd been slapped. "I'm trying," he said. "Try harder," I replied, standing up. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, staring at the ceiling. I remembered the early days of our relationship, how he used to write little notes in my lunch bag, how he kissed me in the middle of the street once, because he didn't care who was watching. Where had that man gone? And why had I let him go? 2 weeks passed. Anthony started going to therapy. He sent me a photo of the card from his first session. I didn't reply. He began emailing me updates, not about us, but about things he was learning. Boundaries. Emotional neglect. Generational trauma. I read every one. But I never responded. Then Gloria called me. I almost didn't pick up. But something told me to. "Marissa," she said. I wanted to apologize. I raised an eyebrow, phone pressed to my ear. "Really? I shouldn't have said what I said about naming the baby. It wasn't my place. And I didn't realize how much I was pushing my expectations onto you." I waited. There was more. "I saw what happened to my son after you left. He's never been good at expressing things. But I've never seen him hurt like this." I softened. "Just a little. That still doesn't excuse, it doesn't," she cut in. "I know. But I'm trying too. We all have to change if we want to be in this child's life." I didn't know what to say to that. So I said, "Thank you." A few days later, I went back to our house. Camille insisted on coming with me, just in case he gets weepy or tries to guilt you. He wasn't there. He'd gone to stay with a friend. Left a note on the fridge, "Take all the time you need. I'll be here when and if you're ready." The house felt different. Quieter. Like it was holding its breath. I walked into the nursery. The room we used to call the office that had slowly started to fill with baby things, books, a hand-me-down crib, a rocking chair I bought at a yard sale. The little green onesie sat on the dresser. I stood there for a long time, hands on my belly, feeling the tiny kicks of the life growing inside me. "You and me, little one," I whispered. "We'll be okay. With or without him." That weekend, Anthony asked to meet. In public. Neutral ground. We sat across from each other at Battery Park Book Exchange, sipping overpriced coffee surrounded by shelves of dusty novels. It was the place we went on our second date. Back when everything felt easy. "I don't expect a decision," he said. "I just want you to know I meant it. I'm changing. I'm not doing it to win you back. I'm doing it because I should have done it a long time ago." I nodded slowly. "It's going to take time." "I know. I'm not sure if we'll get back to what we were." He looked down at his cup. "I'm not sure I want to go back. I want to build something better." That gave me pause. For the first time in weeks, I saw something different in his eyes. Not desperation. Not guilt. Just humility. Real effort. "I don't forgive you yet," I said. "I don't deserve it yet. But I'm willing to see where this goes," I said quietly. "For the baby. For me." He nodded. And for the first time in a long time, we sat in silence that wasn't heavy. It was possible. After that meeting at the bookstore, things didn't magically fix themselves. I wasn't swept up in some grand reconciliation. But I'd be lying if I said something didn't shift. Anthony and I started talking. Just talking. No pressure, no promises. We'd meet once or twice a week at neutral places, coffee shops, walking trails, even the little botanical garden on the UNC Asheville campus. It was like dating someone new, except that person already knew all your secrets. Except, clearly, he didn't know all of mine. And I didn't know all of his. Some conversations were light, baby gear, name ideas, work gossip. But others got heavy. Really heavy. One afternoon, we sat on a bench at Carrier Park near the river. It was cold enough for jackets, but not so cold we couldn't be outside. I was sipping from a thermos Camille insisted I carry everywhere now, full of peppermint tea. Anthony leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I think I was scared to be a dad. I looked at him, surprised by the honesty. I didn't plan for it. And when you told me, I froze. Then Mom did her thing, and I went along with it like I always do. Because it was easier than thinking for myself. You let her steamroll me, I said. You let her claim our kid. I know, he said. That was messed up. A gust of wind rustled the trees above us. I pulled my scarf tighter around my neck. I wanted to be happy when you told me, he continued. But all I could think about was how I was going to mess it up. My dad wasn't exactly a glowing role model. He barked orders, drank too much, disappeared emotionally unless it was something he cared about. I nodded slowly. I remember you told me that once. First year we were dating. He chuckled softly. Back when we used to talk about real things. Back when we used to listen. He looked over at me. I want to be that again. Not just for us, if there is an us, but for the baby. I want to show up. I just don't know how to do it right. Start by not lying, I said, holding his gaze. Start by letting go of your mother's approval. And don't ever make me feel like a background character in my own life again. His voice cracked a little when he said, okay. Back at Camille's, she noticed the difference in me. You seem softer, she said one night while we were doing dishes together. I don't know about softer, I replied. Maybe just less brittle. She gave me a look. You're thinking about letting him back in. I dried my hands on a towel. I'm thinking about what's best for the baby. Camille turned off the faucet, leaned back on the counter, and crossed her arms. I love you, March. And I know you're strong. But don't confuse what's best for the baby with what's easiest to explain to people. If you go back because you believe he can be better. Not because you're afraid of raising this kid alone. I sighed. It's not fear. I don't know what it is yet. But I'll figure it out. She nodded. Good. Just make sure you're part of the plan too. 2 months passed. The nursery came together slowly. I didn't go back to the house, but I didn't fully move out either. I'd drop by during the day when Anthony was at work and pick up things I needed. Sometimes I'd find little notes tucked into the diaper bags or baby books, handwritten ones, just like he used to write. One said, if you're reading this, I hope you're doing okay today. I'm rooting for you. Every step. I cried when I read that one. Hormones, maybe. Or maybe because it felt like him, really him, after so long. Then came the baby shower. Camille insisted on throwing it. She coordinated the whole thing, flowers, a cozy venue in West Asheville, cake, non-alcoholic sangria. She even managed to get my coworkers to chip in on a stroller. Anthony showed up near the end. I didn't know she'd invited him. At first, I was annoyed. Then I saw the look on his face when he walked in and saw the room full of people celebrating my baby. Our baby. He came up to me slowly, holding a small box. I know you said not to bring anything, he said, but I saw this and thought maybe you'd like it. I opened the box. Inside was a silver locket. Simple, elegant. Inside was a tiny photo of a sonogram and a folded note that said, Day 1 of us becoming better people. I didn't know whether to hug him or slap him, so I just said, thank you. The next major storm came, like they always do, just when you think the clouds have passed. One night, Anthony called me sounding tense. My mom wants to talk to you. I blinked. Why? She wants to apologize again. In person. I laughed dryly. This coming from the woman who once said I wasn't raised with proper Southern manners because I didn't send thank you cards for towels. I think she's trying, March. Does she know trying doesn't mean controlling? He was quiet. I'll talk to her, I said. But only if you stay quiet and let her and I handle it. Deal. Gloria came to Camille's house, of all places. She wore a blazer and brought a lemon bundt cake. I didn't touch it. We sat across from each other in the living room. She looked smaller than I remembered. More fragile. Her lipstick was a shade too dark, and her hands trembled slightly. I won't take much of your time, she said. I just wanted to say I was wrong. About a lot of things. I said nothing. I grew up thinking tradition was more important than individuality. That's how I was raised. I passed it on to Anthony. I see now that it's hurt you. Still nothing from me. She took a deep breath. I want to be part of this baby's life, Marissa. But only if I'm invited, not entitled. That part surprised me. She meant it. I looked at her for a long time. Then finally said, we're naming the baby ourselves. You'll find out when she's born, just like everyone else. She nodded. Understood. And with that, she left. No fight. No protest. Just progress. Now, 8 months pregnant, I was exhausted. The house was still technically mine. Anthony and I still weren't back together, but he'd started joining me for some appointments. We even took a birthing class together. At the end of one class, the instructor asked us to practice a visualization exercise. Picture the moment you first hold your baby, she said. What do you want your baby to see in your face? I closed my eyes, and all I saw was peace. Not fear, not anger, not regret, just peace. And in that moment, I knew something had shifted in me. Not for Anthony, not even for the sake of forgiveness, but for myself. I was becoming someone new, someone I could be proud of. Labor started on a Wednesday. I was home alone, yes, I'd finally moved back in, but in the spare bedroom. Anthony and I were still undefined. Co-parents in training. Occasional dinner partners. Two people slowly rebuilding trust with shaky hands. The contractions came early in the morning, tight, unforgiving, like nature's cruelest wake-up call. I called Camille first, then Anthony. Both arrived within 20 minutes, breathless and panicked. By the time we got to Mission Hospital, I was 5 centimeters dilated and cursing loudly enough to terrify the intern. Labor lasted 17 hours. I yelled. I cried. I cussed at Anthony twice and made him leave the room once. But he came back. He held my hand through the pushing. He cried when our daughter let out her first scream. She was perfect. 10 tiny fingers. A swirl of dark hair. Eyes like stormy water. Gray-blue, curious, fierce. We named her Isla Camille. Not Gloria. Not Gregory. Not a stitch of legacy in sight. When Gloria and Walter showed up at the hospital the next day, balloon bouquet in hand, she cooed over the baby for a moment until she asked her name. Isla, I said clearly, cradling my daughter in my arms. Gloria blinked. Isla? That's not a family name. Nope, I said, rocking the baby gently. It's her name. One she won't have to inherit with a list of expectations attached. Gloria opened her mouth, then closed it again. To her credit, she didn't argue. Maybe because she saw the look in my eyes. The calm fire behind them. The silent don't push me again warning. We never spoke of names again. Anthony came back from paternity leave 2 weeks later. He was attentive, hands-on, gentle with Isla in ways I didn't expect. He changed diapers without complaint. Sang off-key lullabies. Took over midnight feedings on nights I could barely lift my head. The man had never held a baby before and now wore a burp cloth over his shoulder like it was part of his anatomy. And yet, something still sat like a stone in my chest. The truth? I couldn't go back. Not to the way things were. Not to the lies, the betrayal, the half-hearted apologies. He'd made progress. He really had. But I didn't love him the same way anymore. And I realized that was okay. So one morning, while Isla slept curled in a soft wrap across my chest, I sat Anthony down at the kitchen table. I'm selling the house, I said. He froze, spoon halfway to his mouth. What? I've been thinking about it for a while. It's too much space. Too many ghosts. Camille and I found a townhome near the French Broad. 2 bedrooms. Big windows. Close to her job and Isla's future daycare. You're moving out? I nodded. We both need a fresh start. Separate ones. He sat back, eyes wide. I thought we were rebuilding. We were, I said gently. And we did. But rebuilding doesn't always mean returning to what was. Sometimes it just means salvaging what matters and walking away from what doesn't. Anthony didn't cry. He didn't beg. He just stared at the kitchen table like it had betrayed him too. I want you in Isla's life, I added. Fully. Joint custody. I'm not keeping her from you. He nodded. Slowly. What about us? He asked, finally. There is no us, I said. Not in the way you want. You were a chapter. A long one. But not the whole book. I moved out 2 weeks later. Now for the revenge part. See, I could have raged. I could have outed him to his entire family. I could have mailed Lydia's letters to Gloria wrapped in a satin bow. But that wasn't my style. Instead, I told the truth. Casually. Calmly. At a garden party, of all things, 3 months later. Gloria was showing off photos of Isla like she'd invented her. Walter was bragging about Anthony being Father of the Year. I stood there, sipping sparkling lemonade, nodding along politely. Then someone asked if Anthony and I were still married. No, I said, just loud enough. We separated after I found letters from an old mistress in his closet. One was dated a few months before I got pregnant. You could have heard a lemon tart drop. Gloria froze mid-sip. Walter cleared his throat. Their friends stared at me in polite horror, and I just smiled. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, I added, taking another sip. Liberating, really. Then I walked away, slow and steady, like the queen I was finally becoming. 6 months later, I got a job offer, head of the English department at a nearby private school. Better hours. More flexibility. A nursery down the hall for faculty parents. Anthony and I had settled into co-parenting surprisingly well. He saw Isla 4 days a week. He even started dating again, someone from his therapy group, of all things. We were civil. Respectful. The kind of exes who text about sleep schedules and send each other funny baby memes. And me? I was thriving. No longer tiptoeing around other people's egos. No longer shrinking myself to fit inside someone else's life plan. I spent afternoons on my tiny balcony reading aloud to Isla. I danced barefoot with her in the living room. I told her stories about strong women who left when they needed to, who built better lives from broken pieces. Because that's the thing they don't tell you about revenge. The most satisfying kind isn't loud. It's not cruel. It's living well, fully, unapologetically, in spite of those who underestimated you. It's walking away, not to punish them, but to finally choose you. And as Isla cooed against my chest one night, tiny fingers wrapped around mine, I whispered in her ear, "Your mama didn't just survive. She rose." And that was the legacy I chose to leave behind.